Welcome. Hope all of you are safe and healthy. My name's Mr. Jack, and I like to ride my bike for exercise. I think a lot of you do as well, and if you like to ride bikes, most likely you've had a flat tire. So we are now looking at the rear axle of the bicycle. As we take a close-up, we can see the gold chain tensioner and the black nut that goes over the axle, or the bolt that you could say. And so now is when I'll need my Allen wrench. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Allen wrench and I'm going to loosen the bolt enough so that I can back this nut off. And then we'll just bring this back, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So now that I have my chain tensioner loosened, I'm going to take the bolt off. So remember, always righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to be going left to loosen the bolt. And you're going to want to get leverage on it, so you want to come from the downside so that you're using gravity and pushing down on the bolt. And then we're going to back that off just enough. And now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Now that we have everything loose, on my particular bike, the chain is pretty tight. It's better so that the chain doesn't fall off when I'm riding. And that's also what the chain tensioners help do. But for my particular bike, I need to go from the front, and I need to push in on the chain as I rotate. As you can see, as the chain comes off as I rotate around. And now my chain is loose. You can see that it's hanging. And so now I have space to bring the chain out of the way. Careful, you don't want to scratch your frame. And then now I can take the wheel off. And the wheel is off. Ta-da! So now that we have the tire and wheel off the bike, we're going to take our tire lever. Once again, these are very cheap on Amazon. I'd say $5 or $6. Usually it comes in a 3-pack. There's many companies out there, but once again, you're going to want to use the plastic ones. And then you're going to take the curved edge and you're going to take it, put it in, and get the closest side to you and pull it forward over the rim. You don't want to grab the tube, because then you'll puncture that. I know it's already flat, needs to be repaired, but if you do further damage, it may not be able to be repaired. It may not already be able to be repaired right now, but there are other uses for tubes. But anyways, I usually just replace it with a new tube. And as you can see, I'm bringing it around. It's what's called breaking a bead until I get fully around. I've reached all the way back to top dead center, and then now I can reach in and pull out my tube. As I work my way around, all the way around, until I get to what's called the valve stem. You'll need to push that back in and pull that out. The thicker ones, and what most bikes have and what most people are used to, is what's called a Schrader valve. There is also what's known as a Presta valve, which is a skinny metal valve. It was invented in France, but that's on other bikes, usually road bikes. So now to put the new tube back in. Where my finger is where the hole is in the rim. That's called the valve stem eyelet. So we're going to want to take our valve stem and we're going to want to push it up into the tire and back down into the hole. So you can see it's going in there. I know it might be a little hard to see. And then once again, you don't want your tire or your tube to get twisted. So as you're working it back in, make sure that it stays flat and not twisted, because that could create an automatic pop right when you're pumping it up because it'll get twisted and caught. So as you're putting it in, you're going to want to work your way around and get it into the rim and into the tire. And you don't want anything sticking out, and you don't want anything twisted. Once you've done that, you can bring your bead back on. So you may not need the tire lever to get it back on, but you might. But you just work your way around. See, you can see here that my tube has come out again. I'm gonna wanna make sure that that's in before I push the tire on. Once again, the tube is trying to come out. I wanna keep it in, and I don't want it to get pinched. So now we've got our tube into the tire. We've got our valve stem sticking out. And now, all right, so we have the tire back on the rim. We have the tube inside the tire. Now we're ready to put the wheel back on the bike. We don't want to pump it up yet unless you know how to work on brakes. That's something I can show later. If you have questions, you can email me. But for right now, we're just gonna put the wheel back on and then pump the tire back up. So once again, we want to make sure that we have our freewheel lined up, our teeth lined up with the crankset and the teeth on the crankset and the chain. As you can see, my chain is still on the outside of the frame. You want to make sure that it's outside and not inside, because when you put the wheel back on, you won't be able to get the chain back on unless it's on the outside. And we're gonna put the back side of the chain on first. And then like we did in the beginning, we're gonna bring the chain and bring it over as we work it around. Now we have the chain fully on. Then now we're gonna wanna tighten our chain tensioner if you have them. If not, you can use a wooden side of a hammer to push down on the wheel to bring the wheel to proper tension. You want your chain to be tight, but not too tight. This is way too loose, but I'm gonna start tightening now. So now I'm gonna grab my Allen wrench. I'm gonna tighten up my chain tensioner. Make sure to bring the bolt closer so that I'll lock it in place. And we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. You do not want to tighten the main bolt yet until you have your chain tensioners tight or you have good tension on the chain. A little bit of play, that's what's called play. When you have a little bit of movement in the chain, that's what you want to see. You don't want it to be super tight. That'll break the chain. So now it's just for the final step is to lock down our bolts. So remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. So we're gonna go clockwise. Bring it around. We don't want to go too tight. And so now I'm gonna take a look at the other side and see how we're doing over there. We're starting to tighten up. So you want it to be tight, but not too tight, because if you go too tight, you're going to be destroying your wheel bearings. Just until you can't push anymore. Okay, so you can see the little brass valve stem. What we're going to do now is we're going to connect the pump. So we're going to hold it up in place, bring down the pump, and lock it in place so that we can pump it up. We're going to want to pump it up to about 25 psi. On each tire, it's on the sidewall, it says a recommended PSI. That's pounds per square inch. And so that'll be what's on your pump. But also, if you're at the gas station, you're gonna kind of want to feel it. It's got a little bit of movement. You want to go a little bit more, but you don't want to pop the tire. So you definitely don't want to exceed its maximum recommendation. This seems to be pretty good. So now we just take. So now that we've checked all of our work that we've done, and our chain has the proper tension, it's got a little bit of movement, not too much, because we don't want the chain falling off. All our nuts and bolts are tight, and the tire has proper pressure in it. We're gonna go ahead and do the reverse of what we did earlier. We're gonna bring the bike up. You wanna go gentle because you don't wanna scrape up your seat. Then you're gonna wanna grab the brake lever again, hold it, bring it down, and gently bring the bike down. So now, next thing to do is go wash our hands. Maybe get some water, and then I'd say go out for a bike ride. Thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions, my email is jfeist@bacr.org. Once again, thank you for watching. Bye.